Hi, everybody. Hi-ho. It's Bill Whittle here with the Stratosphere Lounge, episode number 136. We have a special secret guest who will be joining us in just a few moments. This is the first show after what somebody called Happy Victory Fun Week, and I just kind of wanted to make it Happy Victory Fun Year. It's going to be amazing. There's so many things to talk about starting tonight, and undoubtedly that we'll be talking about for years and decades and centuries and generations to come. So that's good news. I just saw Dave Big Booty, hi everybody, said that it looks like our Facebook likes are creeping up. They're not creeping up, they're rocketing up. We got a really terrific guy, a group of terrific company, I should say, doing our social media at long last, and this meme warfare, this mimetic warfare with these pictures. Our reach has gone through the ceiling. Just to give you an idea, I got an email from him earlier today, and it says that prior to them coming on 1 week, our reach is now 250,000. Prior to them coming on a week ago, it was 13,000. So we're getting ourselves a little more famous out there. It looks like a little tiny bit bright in here on the feedback. So let me just take this down 1 second, and then we will get to work, because we do have some interesting things to talk about today. And as I said, we also have a secret mystery guest who will be making an appearance in just a moment here. Anybody want to guess who it is? No? I can wait. Well, for those of you who watched the It's a Miracle event just the night of the election, it was done at about 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning. I had to fly to Florida the next day. I mentioned a little secret that I've been sitting on for quite some time, and I couldn't figure out when to announce it, and that just seems such a shockingly wonderful night that I decided to let the cat out of the bag. And now, ladies and gentlemen, here in the Stratosphere Lounge, my existing family of people who've been with me for 7, 8, 9 years, some of these folks, and longer in some cases. And so I thought maybe I'd introduce my Stratosphere Lounge online family to my new family. So everybody, I'm going to slide over, and I'd like you to meet my fiancée, Natasha Melnikova. Come in here, beautiful. Hurrah! Say hi.
Hi.
The story of this little adventure is a big adventure, and we can tell it a little bit in pictures. So let me just show you a couple pictures, and I can tell you what I've been sitting on in terms of story for the last May, June, July, August, 6 months. I'd like to pass on, by the way, to those of you in the National Security Agency that I can, in fact, keep a secret, because this is the biggest event of my life, and I didn't tell anybody about it publicly until quite a long time ago. So let's just back up, and I will show you how it worked. There's a great picture to be told in stories, and it's many people are wondering how on earth did a schmo like me end up with this absolutely gorgeous Russian lady who did not come out of a mail order catalog, as a matter of fact. She is a photographer of great renown, and so let me tell the story of how we actually met, because it's been long overdue. How you doing there, baby?
I'm fine.
Okay, good. As you guys know, I've been doing a lot of reading about. I was reading about the Nazis last year and the year before, just reading up everything I could get about them, and then I started to read about the communists in Russia, and I've been a fan of Russian history for a long, long time. So I read about Stalin, and I worked my way back. I got from Stalin down to Lenin and Trotsky, and then I went through the entire Romanov family, and then I just got fascinated. This would be probably back in April. I went through a period of about 2-3 weeks where I was just utterly, completely fascinated by the 4 Romanov daughters of Nicholas II. Atma is the acronym. This Olga, Tatiana, Maria, and Anastasia. I just fascinated with them, and hopefully I can show you why I was so fascinated with them. This is how the story of me meeting Natasha begins. So I was just looking at these pictures, and these are the 4 girls with the future Tsar, the Tsarevich, Alexei. And these 4 girls were the daughters of Nicholas II. And the more I read about them, the more kind of obsessed with them I became. Now, these are colorized modern pictures, but the actual photograph is actually correct. So these 4 girls are just so beautiful. They're just so stunning. They don't even look lifelike to me. They just look like dolls. And I think we have finally a picture of them later in life. And the thing that is so horrible about this, for those of you that didn't see it coming, are these 4 Grand Duchesses, these princesses, were taken into a house. First they went out to Siberia to Tolsk, I guess, and then finally they moved to Ekaterinburg. And when they were in Ekaterinburg, the Bolsheviks, sweet, gentle, charming people that they are, I'll come off of this for a second, the Bolsheviks decided that we're going to have to murder this entire family. The Tsar was going to be killed. His son, the heir, down there in the lower left, was going to be killed. The Tsarina to his right, Nicholas and Alexandra, she was going to be killed. But they decided that they had to kill these 4 girls as well because they're Bolsheviks, and that's what they do. So the horrible part of this, and then I'll get to the lovely part. I just have to tell the story because it's one of the reasons I was so fascinated. Go back to that picture again for a second. So this picture was probably taken, 4 or 5 years before they were killed. And what happened was they took them all down into a basement in this house that they were staying in, a basement room. And the Tsar, his wife, the son, and the daughters, so that's 7, plus a couple of servants and a doctor. It's just absolutely appalling. They took these people into this room, and they just lined up 11 guys with revolvers. And is everybody saying they lost the stream? I just refreshed it. And anyway, so they lined up 11 guys with revolvers and shot them all point blank. They killed the Tsar instantly. The Tsarina was shot pretty much instantly too. But here's the part that's so tragic. These girls and the little boy had a number of diamonds and jewels that they'd smuggled out. And when they shot these kids, they had hidden the jewels in their corsets and in their underwear and so on. So when they started firing on these children, they were actually wearing a form of bulletproof vests. And so they just didn't die right away. In fact, they kept shooting them and they kept screaming and they just kept on screaming. In any event, have we got the stream back? I'm not getting any comments back. It looks good, like it's recording to me, and it looks like it's streaming to me, so I'm just going to assume that we're going to keep going. In any event, these 4 girls were basically just shot to pieces, and finally they had to go in and try to stab the youngest 2, Maria and Anastasia, with bayonets. Finally had to try and kill them that way, and they didn't do a very good job of it, so that one of them, probably Maria on the far left there, survived, and briefly, and as she was being carried out to the meat wagon, they were going to take her to a mine and bury them all in. She woke up screaming, and they basically bashed her face in with rifle butts. So that's why I'm so fascinated with the Romanov daughters, and why I'm so fascinated with the Bolsheviks and the communists, because those are the kind of people that we're fighting against. And this is who they are. In any event, so how do we get from this picture here to this beautiful, wonderful woman sitting here next to me? And I'll show you. So I was image searching for everything I could find on these girls. I just couldn't get enough of it. And I would upload pictures of them onto Google Images, and it would bring up similar images. And when I was doing that, I started seeing pictures like this come up. And so I would see that image come up along with the daughters, and then I'd see, like maybe this would come up, and a couple more examples. And I saw images like this, and they all had the same watermark on them down in the bottom right-hand corner or left-hand corner, as the case may be. This picture, for example, does not look like it was taken in this century by... This picture looks to me like it was taken in 1915 out at the Alexander Palace at Tsarskoye Selo, and I was just completely fascinated by this look, because I didn't know how somebody could take pictures that had this kind of elegance and Grace, and here's the final one I'll show you. So when I saw these pictures, I thought, I don't know who took these pictures, but this person has not only an enormous amount of talent. They're something very delicate and kind and pure about somebody who can take pictures like this. So needless to say, if you look in the lower left-hand corner, there's a URL, and it's photomelnikova.ru. So needless to say, I went to photomelnikova.ru, and just mostly to say, hey, great work on the pictures. And I was expecting to see some 50-year-old man, in a bad suit or something, and that's not what I saw at all. I got to the website and I saw this picture, and I just said, okay, this is somebody that I'm going to have to strike up a conversation with. So sure enough, I sent her an email, and she sent me one back, and this amazing world of ours. We just started a conversation on WhatsApp, and after about, I don't know, 10 days, something like that, honey, I guess, I said, you really should come visit America. Now, Natasha has been all over the world doing master classes and teaching other photographers how to take pictures like this. See you later, Carla. We'll get you on next week. You'll be our mystery guest for next week. And she's been all over Europe and other parts of the world, but never been to America. So the reason this is so interesting for me is I'm learning so much from, there's so much that I take for granted, and I think most of us take for granted as Americans. So I said, well, why don't you come on a plane, we'll come out and visit. And unfortunately, you can't just do that. It took a long time for her to get the visa. I hate to say this, hate to keep interrupting the story, but man, this feed just keeps locking up. I'm not really happy about that. Looking good on this end here. We have 5 bars coming out. Anyway, there we go. So, we stayed in touch, obviously, and she finally wrote me one day and said, Billy, I've got the visa. I'm coming. So we decided, hooray. It's a 12-hour flight from Moscow direct to Los Angeles. By the way, there's only one flight that goes direct from Moscow to Los Angeles, and it's the highest rated flight. It's rated higher than British Airways, rated higher than Air France, higher than KLM, all of those. And it's Aeroflot. And when I grew up, thinking about Aeroflot was, just take your life in your hands, but it was tremendous. So anyway, I thought, okay, well, you know what? I was checking out airfare options, and as it turned out, I was thinking, well, what would happen if we got to New York? And I remember I had seen Les Miserables about a year earlier on Broadway, and it was just the best thing I'd ever seen ever. It was the best entertainment of any kind I'd ever seen. So I said to Natasha, how about if we meet in New York? I'll fly out there and we'll meet there, and we'll do a couple days in New York, and then we'll come out to LA. So here we go. So we're everything's great, and I get to the airport probably about an hour and a half before a flight's scheduled to land. I've got a little flight tracker, and I take off, and she's over Finland, and then she's over the North Pole, and she's coming, kind of somewhere up at the very top of the arc there. And I'm looking at the arrival time, and it says, plane's due in 3 hours and 20 minutes. And then next thing I see is it's due in 4 hours and 8 minutes, and then it's due in 4 hours and 40 minutes. And I'm thinking, that's not good. How is your arrival time getting longer? And you want to tell them what happened?
It was something with connection between planes and the ground, and they didn't let us to fly through the ocean and planes, because not just us, there were others planes above us, and we were so scared, we did not understand what is happening, and I thought, why it's with me? Why? Because everybody, they thought, we don't know, or do we fly or fly back, or
what?
Yeah, or something very bad could happen.
So we were we got the details, and it turns out that they were over mid-Atlantic at 38,000 feet, and then the plane just turned around and started heading back, and the next thing you know, they're on a holding pattern. They're on a little race course, just circling in the sky and descending. And it turns out that one way or another, somebody had not gotten ATC clearance through Iceland's airspace. So Iceland didn't have them officially cleared, so they just circled out there for like an hour, maybe hour and a half, something like that.
Yeah, something like that.
And they're getting lower and lower, and nobody knows why. And you told me there was a guy in the back of the room, kind of a loud guy, and he goes to the back of the
Yes,
plane, starts banging on the windows, wants to be out of there.
yeah, that guy was very proud of himself. He was in a business class, but after I saw him in the tail of the plane, yes, and he cried.
Banging on the windows?
Yes,
Just
yes.
let me out.
Yes, it was picture that I didn't forget.
Yeah, I'll bet.
Yeah.
So I was saying when I heard this from Natasha, I said, why the hell didn't the pilot say something? And I immediately go into my pilot voice, what I use when I'm on air traffic control in my little long easy. And it's like, ladies and gentlemen, we've got a little problem here. Nothing wrong with the airplane. The airplane's just absolutely fine. Never been in a healthier airplane. But it turns out that somebody messed up the paperwork, and we don't have air traffic control clearance through Iceland's airspace yet. So we're going to be circling up here just for a few minutes until we get all that stuff sorted out on the ground. Sorry about the delay. We'll let you know exactly what's going on, and don't worry about fuel. We've got enough fuel to fly to New York and back again, so everything's just fine, and we'll keep you posted. But they didn't do that. They basically just kept them hanging there for an hour and a half, and then finally, just before they're ready to come on, they bothered to tell the passengers why they'd been circling, because everybody's got the moving map. It's not like it's a mystery.
Yes.
They're just going around in circles there. So anyway, so the plane was delayed about an hour and a half, 2 hours almost into New York. That's fine. And then I'm waiting in customs at JFK, which is not an experience I would recommend to anybody. And to make a long story short, Natasha was in customs for 3 hours?
3 hours.
3 hours. And you said all the people in front of you, they were asking like 20-minute questions of?
Yeah, it was families. It was just girls and other people. They stayed like more than 20 minutes.
And you just finally, after all these people went through and you waited 3 hours, you went up and talked to the guy and he just said, what?
He asked me about what I'm going to do in New York,
Mm-hmm.
and I told him about Les Miserables,
Mm-hmm.
that it was my dream to see it, and he told, okay, you can go, just second, you can go.
Fantastic. And so
Yes.
finally she came out, and I'm sitting there in the gigantic room at at the arrivals area at Kennedy, and I'm way in the back, and there's just a mob of people, just an ocean, and I'm looking, and I'm thinking that might be her, maybe that's her, that might be her, perhaps it's her, and then she came out, and I went, oh, that's her, all right, and you can't really tell sitting down here, but Natasha's very tall, she's 5'10", almost 5'11", and she just came walking out of there like that, and I just went, oh my goodness gracious. And then what did I do? I don't even remember.
You don't remember?
I mean, I remember, but I thought you might want to tell.
What I saw?
When you came around the corner.
It's just, it took just a second to understand that this is my man. It's miracle, but it's like that.
What did I do?
Oh, you can do this artistic gests.
Gesture?
And yes, you did something like this. Let's go. And
Yeah, I was in the back of the crowd, and I wanted you to see me, so I raised my hand and I said, like, come over here, off to the side. And so she came over to the side, and it was amazing. And I've said this before to many people, but we got in the cab for New York, and so she thought she was going to maybe not survive the trip in the airplane. So there's that. And then by the way, we get in the cab, and we got a cab driver who was, and New York cab drivers have got a reputation, but this guy actually was genuinely nuts, and we're just slinging around back here in this crummy old cab with this crappy suspension, but Naka put her head on my shoulders, and I had my arm around her, and I thought, I can't remember a time when she wasn't here. And it was just like that, instantly. So we have a couple pictures for you real quick about our little adventures in New York, and then we'll get back to our regularly scheduled programming. So we talked about how we wanted to go see Les Miserables. This is just an iPhone picture that Natasha took of me, but that I think is one of the best pictures of me ever taken. I just like it, probably because I'm so happy. Wonder why. So we saw the show. We did the night before the show. We went to Times Square, and this must have been around midnight or something, Natasha. I think somewhere around there.
yes,
But it's so amazing, folks. There's so much of what I love about this is just so much the chance for me to see America again. Through fresh eyes, and as we were driving into town, she kept saying, "Oh, I saw this in this movie. I saw this in a movie, and I saw this, and it's great. You don't realize really how much America reaches the rest of the world until people who've never been here come and tell you how familiar everything looks, how New York looks like if you've seen it 100 times, and so we did New York and Times Square that first night, and we went and walked around, and I like this picture very much because I was born in Manhattan and not too far from the Empire State Building there. So we did ourselves a great time in New York. We saw Les Miserables, which is the best thing I've ever seen, ever.
We cried.
Yep.
We just cried.
Like babies.
And I never felt like I did. Yes, just.
And every single minute, there's another thing that they just rip out of you.
Yes.
And Les Miserables is it's the best thing I've ever seen. It is every relationship in the world is there. It's a father-son relationship. It's a sister's relationship. It's a brother's relationship. It's everything. And at the end, I was so overwhelmed, and she was too. And it was just like pretty big turbocharged thing. So anyway, so we did 3 nights in New York, and then we came out to L.A. and got in on Saturday afternoon, I want to say. And then Sunday, I decided, well, if you're going to take a visitor from 6,000 miles away on 10 time zones on the other side of the planet, if you're going to do the California thing, you got to do it right. So we decided I decided I was going to rent if you're going to take somebody down to see California, you have to drive down Pacific Coast Highway in a red Corvette Stingray convertible, and that's pretty much what we did. So Natasha just snapped this baby with the iPhone as well, and we have fond memories of that car and fond memories of that trip. Right after we took this picture, we just walked out on the beach out at Malibu, and the sun is setting, and after all this time we'd spent together, she's actually here, and we had the best time I have ever had. I think we were playing Michael Bublé and Come Fly With Me on the off of the iPod. Went out to dinner out at a place called Mastro's. It used to be called the Chart House. It's a Mastro's right on the ocean, and Natasha had her first lobster ever, which was fun to watch. And then we got in the car and we drove down Sunset Boulevard, and I had Beach Boys playing in a red Corvette, and the top was down, and I'm here with this beautiful woman who I was already falling in love with very fast, and as we kept driving and going down Sunset Boulevard, it's very windy. Finally, Natasha takes off the scarf and starts waving it in the air, and I thought, man, we're home. So we went through Beverly Hills and Sunset Boulevard and Hollywood and did all those things and saw that. And then we went since we're here, we decided, well, let's go to Vegas. So we went to Las Vegas, and we stayed at the hotel that I own there called the Bellagio. Which was named after me, as you probably know. The many properties I own around the world, the Bellagio is my favorite place.
Bellagio.
The Bellagio, yes, exactly. So we stayed at the Bellagio, and then after that, it was like we did I think we did 11 days, and then after we did 11 days, we're thinking, okay, well, now she has to go back, and I didn't want her to go back, and she didn't want to go back. So we said, well, we should probably make this permanent. And I had never met anybody like this before, and I've never just felt this comfortable with anybody. And I realized, we'd known each other, been talking for a couple months, and everything was just automatic. And I'm, 57 years old. I'm probably got it sorted out by now. And I just decided this is the person I'd like to spend the rest of my life with. And I don't think you can really ask somebody to give up everything in the world, drop everything, fly around the world, and not be serious about it. So we'd spent all our time together. So we went to the mall 2 days before she left, and I said, I got to get something up from the Apple store. I'll be right back. And I left her down in the mall, and I went rushing up to the jeweler, and I was... And I walk in there and I was like, where are your engagement rings? And then she's over here, that one, that's really nice. And so we got it, and can we see it? Wait, there it is. Look at that baby shine. Anyway, there it is. So we did that just before she left, and she got back into took her down to LAX, and that was really hard. Day or two after I proposed to her, she had to go back to LAX and get on an Aeroflot flight and spend 12 hours in an airplane, go back to Russia, and that month was really, really tough. For a while there, we thought we may not be able to get her back out here for another couple, 3 months, because we talked to an immigration attorney. And by the way, I know this doesn't really need to be said, but no video, no audio. Keep refreshing, folks. It's a little odd tonight. In any event, we'd gotten her here on a tourist visa, needless to say, and then we wanted her to come back. But coming back so soon after being here on a tourist visa is a little funny. And obviously, we decided we would be doing everything 100% legally, because this is the kind of immigration story we have. By the way, before I forget, I want to say this. John E. Quest out there, thank you. He said, did we help pay for that ring? That would be a nice feeling. Strata Loungers and the rest of the BillWhittle.com members, you not only helped pay for the ring, you paid for the flight, you paid for the apartment, you paid for the car rental, you paid for all of those things. That's what you all did out there for us, and thank you. So anyway, we had a bad month, just a really rough month. And I talked to a number of immigration attorneys, and they said wait a little while, and we couldn't wait any longer. So finally we got her back on the plane, and she came back direct. Now, one of the things that was tough about this was I've told you guys many times, it's been so many years I spent by myself with my cats, and I wouldn't have made it without those little guys. This is a picture of my cat. Well, his name is Tahoe, but I call him Bean. And Natasha just snapped this also with an iPhone. And I've never seen such character. I've never seen so much emotion in the face of an animal before in my life. I love this picture. Love it. Love it. But Natasha had a friend like my cats, and her name is Masyanya, a little Russian princess. And so, where is she? There she is. So one of the things that was kind of interesting was Natasha had to get visa and passport, all this stuff. Masyanya had to get 5. Yeah, she needed 5 documents. She needed a passport. She needed any number of medical things and so on. But this sweet little cat, she's tiny. My cats look like they ate watermelons. Masyanya is so tiny. She's so tiny and so frail. But that little girl, that little Persian, sat in a soft carrier for 20 hours. Didn't make a sound and didn't make a mess. And now she's home, and she lives in California too. So that's that. So I'll just show you one more thing, just because it's been such a wake-up call for me in so many ways. When we were talking, I guess we were in New York, maybe, or maybe it was Vegas. And Natasha was telling me about Winter Girl. And it was what the heck is Winter Girl? And she was trying to explain to me that this was, it's kind of well known. I mean, who doesn't know about Winter Girl? I didn't know what she was talking about. As it turns out, Russians have a very interesting take on the Santa Claus story, and I am learning a little bit of Russian here. So the Russian Santa Claus is not named Santa Claus. He has a name that in English I told you this, it's just appalling. The Russian Santa Claus is named, here he comes, his name is Ded Moroz, and that means Grandfather Frost, basically. But Ded Moroz has a blue suit, and I think Santa looks so much cooler in a blue suit than the red suit, frankly. And Grandfather Frost, Ded Moroz, are two English words, dead, which is dead, and moros, which sounds like morose, which means very, very sad. But anyway, here's Ded Moroz, and according to Russian legend, he has a daughter, Snegurочка. I almost had it right, Snegurочка.
Granddaughter.
A granddaughter, yes, sorry. Snegurочка. Snegurочка. Okay, so there's Ded Moroz, Grandfather Frost, and his daughter Snegurочка, who is Winter Girl. The probably the better translation is Snow Maiden, and Natasha was telling me that ever since she was a little girl of 6 or 7 years old, every time they had a holiday theme, you were always picked to be Snegurочка.
Yes, my mom she made me a costume every year, and I was just like, I felt like a princess. It was very good memory.
She is a princess. She is a princess, and I, so she got back here on September 12th, and she's been here ever since, and she's not going back because, like so many of us, or so many of us are our parents anyway. Natasha is an American who happened to be born overseas, and the reason I say that is because the greatest part of this experience for me by far has been almost every day here in America. To her enormous credit, needless to say, I have not heard ever from Natasha, not even a peep of, wow, this is a very nice house or nice buildings, nice cars, nice apartments. By the way, folks, Moscow, I've seen recent pictures of Moscow, makes Los Angeles look like a 18th century medieval village. Moscow is swinging. I can't believe how swinging Moscow is. However, from the very first time we got here, Natasha's face would light up frequently, and it took me a while to figure out what it was, but she's just so amazed at the people, and just the friendliness of the people, and we take this so much for granted. Somebody just said, "Welcome home, Natasha." Kristen Miller 16 said, "Welcome home."
Thank you.
This was time and time again, but just give you a small example of it. My apartment's right opposite from Whole Foods, and we were down there shopping one night, and we're bringing the bags up to get bagged, and we're at the checkout counter, and we take this so much for granted. The guy said, "Hey, how's it going?" "Oh, good. How are you?" "I'm fine, thanks." "Did you find everything you want?" "Yeah, everything's good." "Okay, you having a good night?" "Yes, fine, thank you." And Natasha had this look on her face like, "What?" I said, "What is it?" And she said, "Everybody's so nice here." And then she said something that was so sweet, it broke my heart almost. She said she'd always wanted to be nice. She's always been very friendly, and that just doesn't happen in Russia. We were at a supermarket one night, a couple days before this, I guess, and it was midnight, and we were walking down the aisles, and some guy just walked up and said, "I really like your dress. It's just really beautiful dress." And she was just blown away by this. So it's something we should probably remember and try to keep going. Guys, this is in fact a very, 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 very friendly country, and we talked about quite a lot, nothing but that really since then, why it's such a friendly country, because we still have somebody's written something in Russian up there. I don't know if you can see it right. It's in English over here, right there. I don't know what that. Can you read that?
Любовь не имеет предела.
Пределами?
Предел. It means the love is not on the border in a frame. It's more.
Love has no borders. Love, yeah, that's it. Love has no borders. That's it.
Not frame. No, not borders. I mean, but not frame.
No limits.
Not limits.
Got it. Well, that's very sweet of you. Thank you. And so this was it. And then we're gonna. And people are coming in now with all these comments, and they said, "Wait till you meet some Southerners," and they're absolutely right, and Midwesterners too. If you think people in Los Angeles are nice, when you get to the Midwest, you get up to Minnesota or down in the South, Alabama and Georgia, and all these places, the people are just going to fall down. They're so sweet. They're so sweet. But this last thing I'll say before we get into our Happy Fun Celebration Week comments, because it's been a hell of a week for all of us, and me more than anybody, I think. We were watching the first debate with Clinton and Trump, and we were watching it with a group of Republicans here in Los Angeles. There may be 30 of us here. There's probably 30 Republicans in all of Los Angeles, and they were all in one place. So we were watching the first debate. Now, obviously, Natasha's come to America not only during election season, she's come to America during the most remarkable election season ever. And since I live in this world, this is something that you get a lot of exposure to. So we're down there watching the first debate, and Trump starts landing some blows on her. And a lot of the people I was with had mixed feelings about Trump, but Trump was just pounding her, as you probably remember. And people in the bar started cheering. Rah! do you believe he said, cheering. And then Hillary'd say something, and there'd like one or two supporters there, and they'd say something. And it's like a football game. And Natasha looked a little like confused by this, and I said, what are you thinking about? And she said, nobody does this in Russia because there is no politics in Russia because there's no outcome in Russia, right? You can't change the outcome.
Mm-hmm.
I remember the first thing you said to me, because I told her the very first comment I made to her was, "I'm just such a fan of your country. I love the Russian people very much. Their depth of their soul and the literature and the poetry and their toughness in World War II and all the rest of it." I said, I'm very fond of them, and I've been a big student of their history for a long time. She tells me I know more Russian history than she does.
Oh yeah, it makes me ashamed. He knows very, very good Russian history, and I'm just crazy about it.
Well, I was telling her that I admired Putin. I've done a video on Putin. I don't admire him personally, but I admire his patriotism. And this was back 4, 5, 6 months ago. I admire the fact that he seems to like his country a sure lot better than our president liked ours. And Natasha said something I thought was so deep. She said, "Putin loves Russia. It's the people he doesn't care much about." And I thought, wow. Well, that's really amazing. In any event, so we had this first debate, and then we had the second one, and I was talking with her the whole election cycle, the whole season, about what we're doing, and she's a fan of my work, obviously, and she obviously is on the right team because she's lived under some of this stuff when she was a little girl. And as we got closer and closer to the election, she was rooting for Trump very hard, and so was I. And as we got closer to the election, about 4 or 5 days out, I guess, I remember I said to her, "You know what? I don't think Trump is going to be able to do it. I don't think he's going to be able to pull it out. She's got a pretty big lead, and she's got all the power and all the money and all the rest of it." And somebody just said, "Welcome to the Love Boat, Natasha. We've loved him for years." This is so sweet. I have the best people. So we were watching. About 4 or 5 days before the election, I said to her, I don't think he's going to do it. I don't think he's going to be able to do it. And I knew it was an election loss. And she said something to me, I'll never forget it ever. And she said, "Bill, you're so pure, you're so sweet, you're such an idealist, and I know you believe in all this stuff, but money and power just cannot be beaten. You cannot beat money and power. This is the way the world works. And you're very, very, very lovable for believing differently, but it's just that's the way things are. You can't beat money and power." And then we did. And then we did. And she was with me in the studio when I was watching it. And bit by bit, we're watching these results come in, and it's like it actually happened. And I think of all the things in the world that made me the happiest, I was happiest that she could be here that night to see it. Because, again, this is something, I learned so much about America from her. I believed it was possible. I just didn't think it was likely. Most people didn't think it was possible. And when we heard from her relatives back home, they were saying, well, of course Clinton's going to win. There's no chance that Trump has. The world just doesn't work that way. And when he won, there was a period for the next day, I think, where I was getting messages from Natasha saying her family and the other people that she knows in Russia are wondering if Hillary can reverse this somehow.
Oh no!
Is it possible?
Totally.
Is it possible for her now to, with the money and the power, now that this little election thing has happened? What happens? How does Hillary get it back? She doesn't get it back. It's gone. It doesn't happen. If something were to happen to Trump, then he'd be replaced by the vice president. But it's Republicans for 4 years now. And it was amazing to her, and it's amazing to me, and all of it. It just couldn't be better. I've never been this happy in my life. I didn't know I could be this happy this consistently. I cannot remember what life was like before she arrived. And you'll notice that the hair, she's made my hair turn gray. I used to be young with dark hair, and then the second I saw her, I just morning next woke. She actually convinced me that it's probably time to put the cheap hair dye away and all kinds of other little things. So you're going to be seeing a lot more of her, and you're going to be seeing a lot more of her pictures too. Oh, hang on one second, guys. I want to show you the good version of this. I meant to load this up and I didn't. I'm going to show you the pictures she took of me. I'll tell you the story as I'm going on. We were she'd been here for about quite a while, 3 weeks or 4 weeks, and it was a Sunday, and I'd been working very hard on the elections and all the rest of it, and basically Sunday afternoon it was getting dark, and she said, well, we should go out and take pictures. I don't. Okay, sure. Let's go take pictures. And we went out to like a open area and took some pictures of me there. And it started to drizzle a little bit. And then, she says, we need to go someplace pretty like Beverly Hills. I was stone cold exhausted at this point. I was just absolutely blown away tired. And so I said, sure, baby, absolutely. Let's go to Beverly Hills. But I didn't want to go. Try to get this picture loaded. There we go. So we're in Beverly Hills. We're driving to Beverly Hills, and I am like a cat that's getting a 3-hour bath. I just was kind of cranky. Why are we doing this? I'm thinking to myself, it's wet and it's raining, and she's just calm as can be. She absolutely understands how to handle me when I get like this. And anyway, so we got down there, and we get to a scenic location, and Natasha says, okay, stand there like this, now cross your legs like this, now lean against this thing this way. And by this point, I'm so furious, it's like, not at her, obviously, just at the world, because it's been a rough day politically and everything. And I was like, nobody stands this way. Who stands like this? Nobody stands like this. Just do it. Okay, so I do it, and we sit on a bench. Put your arm out here like this. And I feel like an idiot. So after about an hour of giving her this treatment, she just very calmly, very patiently just keeps on going. And she said something that made it okay for me. She said, you're a man. Men don't like doing these things. Men don't like posing. It's okay. Don't worry about it. And I thought, wow, my God. In any event, she was taking pictures, and Natasha, everything she does is in natural light. She doesn't use any lighting at all. Occasionally, maybe a little bit, but all of the pictures we showed you earlier were pictures that she takes in natural light. And so she just snagged a picture of me. She'd say things like, it had rained, which is nice because you really want the streets wet because it has a magical effect. And she would say things like, hey, can you step a little bit forward, a little bit to your left, because she's using the available light from storefronts. There's no light out there. So anyway, she took this picture of me. It's probably the best picture of me ever taken. And I'm just, once I saw this, I thought, okay, my God, So good news for those of you who are Bill Whittle fans. There are going to be a lot of pictures of me taken at a lot of different events. And every time I go some places, we come back with hundreds of, terrific pictures. And so there's that. So anyway, she's not going back until we get the visas straightened out and we end up being married, and then I'm going to go back and visit my family in Russia. And I finally get to see Russia. I told her I wanted to see Moscow in the winter, and she said, no, you don't. And I said, yes, of course you do. Of course I do. How do you not see? When do you see Moscow when it's not in the winter? Everything I know about Moscow is in Moscow in winter. You really don't want to go in the winter, and it turns out you really don't. So in any event, that's the honest true story of how we met and how we got here. And see, this is not something most people see. Mostly, sons of bitches, bastard traitors, sons of bitches, and she just calms me down and makes me happy. I couldn't be happier in my whole life, so I wanted to share after all this time. So she's going to go in the back room and work on some pictures now, and I'm going to keep her here. Anyway, this is my extended family, and they're the people out there that make all of this stuff possible, and you know that, and she knows that you know, and you know that she knows that you know, and here we are. So anyway, we will let you all know about dates and so on and times and get all that stuff sorted out. But now we have found, we've got a free country and we've got 4 years to work, and I found the love of my life, and I just have never in my life ever gotten along with anybody like this. And you probably know by now, those of you who've been with me know I'm not a super easy guy to get along with. I don't suffer fools gladly, but I occasionally have my moments if I really put my head to it. Yeah. Okay. Well, say goodbye to the lovely people, and we'll go back and read all the comments. Have I taken her to the gun range yet? No, I have not. But I have to say something. When we first got here, I showed her the AR-15 and the 45, and it's like, this is what freedom looks like, baby. She's gone for a ride in the Long Easy. And as Sarge says, Cubs win the World Series, Trump is elected, and Bill is engaged. The world is ending. He's absolutely right. It's absolutely incredible. And everybody's saying nice to meet you. And I do want to say again what I say pretty much every week, and that is none of this would happen without you guys. It's absolutely true. It just wouldn't happen without you. You're not only my source of income, but you're my introduction to her, because I sent her my website, and then the next thing you know, she's binge watching videos, and I'm binge looking at all of the photographs that she took on the web. And so anyway, we're just happy as we can be. I am, and she is, and Masyanya's here, and the cats are here, and we got a free country again, and everybody's saying come back and see us again. So I'm looking forward to doing something where we can all kind of meet in person, everybody. But I'm going to let her get back to her photography work now, and I can answer some of these questions. But yeah, I've been looking forward to this episode for a long time now. And bye, Natasha. Welcome to the family. We love you already. And Natasha, start with the 22. We're going to get you a little pistol. We're going to get you a little pistol, little one. It's really easy to shoot, and you can still kill people with it. But it's, you don't want to go out there and start firing my gun because it's gigantic. No, well, there's probably 50,000 people out there that want to take you to the shooting range, and I do too. So we'll get you something nice and small in case the Russians decide to invade or anything, or in case the Americans decide to invade Russia. We can sort this thing out at the border.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yes, and thank you very much. And by the way, I know she's a little shy, but I'd be this shy and I'd be this quiet if I had to speak in a language that wasn't mine. I really, one of my favorite things is to take her to see some of her Russian friends and sit back for an hour and a half and let her speak her natural language at her natural speed, and it's just really, really fun. So this whole relationship happened in English thanks to her, and I'm going to start taking Russian, and we'll see. So until then, до свидания. Spasiba. Yeah. See you later. Mwah. Ladies and gentlemen, Bill Whittle's fiance. Most people thought it would never happen. Hey, somebody's offered to lend you their pistol so you can go shooting with their gun, and we'll be hearing an awful lot more of that. Don't you worry. Anyway, yeah. I feel like the king of the world, and I damn well ought to feel like the king of the world. Thank you very much for that, ladies and gentlemen, and especially thank you for the very kind comments that were coming in live, and we'll be looking for them on YouTube as well, because this just couldn't happen without you, and I mean that sincerely. So needless to say, I am very grateful. And I'll tell you one last thing now that she's not here to embarrass any further. You just look at the girl, you just think, my God, don't let her find out how much I'm punching above my weight here. She's absolutely stunning, and she's very kind, and I don't want to be misunderstood about this, but I dated pretty much everybody in Los Angeles, I want to say, and there's something about the old world, which is obviously her elegance is right there, but she's so friendly and does all these little things for me that I remember, she was doing something once at the house. I said, "Oh, thank you so much." Why? It's like, I don't know, just thank you. It's just been absolutely wonderful. But the thing I really wanted to say was the thing that I find most compelling about the whole story from the beginning, and something really that is, I didn't realize how important it was to me. As Jeff said, she must be an astonishing breath of fresh air amid the toxicity of LA women. And I didn't want to come out and say that, but that's precisely, exactly, 100% what it is. just so kind and so friendly and undemanding and humble, and just takes such great care of me. But what I was trying to say here is, when I first saw her, I saw her work. Before I met her, I saw the work that she did. In fact, it was the quality of her work that drew me to her, and I found that being with somebody who's just the top in their profession and who does such extraordinary work, I just am filled with such profound respect for her, and I just admire her enormously. And she has better hair than Ensign Rand. That's exactly right. And don't even start me about how much time I thought about Janice Rand when I was a little boy watching. In any event, but it's amazing, and it's amazing to watch her work, and it's amazing to watch the humility and stuff. And she understands light better than anybody I've ever seen. And just to give you a quick idea of this, we were flying to I want to say it was to Florida right after the election for the Horowitz event, and we were on the plane, and she got out we got out the magazine, the in-flight magazine, and we're looking at ads and because she's actually styling me and dressing me now and so on, and we were looking at this picture. She says, "I like this picture very much," and I said, "Yeah, it's a nice picture." And then she starts saying, "Light's coming from here, but it's kind of coming from here, and you can see from the reflection on his shoes where the light is coming from." And she just, like almost like a computer, had just analyzed the way the light was flowing and reflecting and rebounding in the room. And when I look at her pictures, the color palette's all identical. The model's hair matches the wallpaper pattern, and in terms of color, and it's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. And I really like, not just like, I'm flattered. I'm flattered and I'm humbled to be around somebody who does world quality work. And it wouldn't matter what it was. It wouldn't matter if it was photography or anything else, but it was somebody who's, as good as she can possibly be, as good a photographer as you can be, and to do it all with natural lighting is just a tremendous thrill for me. And Natasha said something a couple nights ago, or maybe it was a week ago, before we went to Florida, because we've been pulling some long nights here. How long have Scott and Steve known, Cheryl? They've known since I asked her to marry me, which would be August 6th. We were both putting in late nights, and she's got a workstation in the back there, and we got a photo studio at my apartment complex for her in the same place. And next thing you know, it's 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning here, and I'm just finishing an edit on something, and she's wrapping up, getting some photos, batched and looking at. And I remember thinking, she came out and said, "This is really nice. Sometimes we sit at the same table and work together." And she said, "It's so nice that we can both," because we're both night owls, "so nice that we can be here working together." And she said, I don't know how another wife would be able to deal with this. So, huh? She said, well, I mean, you're out till 3 o'clock in the morning working on things most nights. And I know this because I'm with you most nights working on stuff too. And I thought, my God, that's absolutely right. That's absolutely right. So, yeah, to say that this has been an amazing year, it is. And by the way, if you want to see the rest of her work, it's photomelnikova.ru, and that's FOTOMELNIKOVA.RU. And let me see if there's a watermark on one of these pictures here where it's clearer, and I'll just put it up there for you real quick. It's a little hard to read. So is that. Here you go. I'll put it up for you one more second here. If you look in the bottom left-hand corner, you can see it's FOTOMELNIKOVA.RU, and I couldn't be happier. I'll tell you one final thing politically, and we'll get on to the new. We'll get on to the questions for tonight. One of the reasons that they would talk about a natural-born citizen requirement for the presidency is the main reason that Obama did not qualify for. We're going to assume he was born in Hawaii, but he wasn't the traditional definition of a natural-born citizen, which is a person who was born in America to two American parents. And as I've said many times, I'm not a natural-born citizen by that definition. I was born in Manhattan, and my father's American, but my mother's British. And the reason that the founders thought this might not be a good idea, and it only applies to the president, is that they thought it would prejudice you towards that second parent's country. And sure enough, it does. Um, the My mom is British, and I feel a tremendous sympathy to the Brits, and I think that's appropriate for America because I think they're our best friends in the world and have been. But it's there, and all I want to say about this is this: my position and comments on Russia have not softened, but they have certainly gained a perspective. When you talk to somebody who grew up there, and you hear things like, well, there are American bases on every side of our country, on every border, everywhere we go, just a few miles across the border, there are American bases, and you try to convince people that no, we're not aggressive or anything, and you list a little bit of the history, but talking about my expanded perception and perspective on things, we would feel a little differently about Russia if there was Russian airfields in Toronto and Vancouver and in Tijuana, giant naval station down there by the Sea of Cortez. And if you really get a sense of a different perspective on things, and of course she's getting a different perspective on things every moment she's here. She tells her friends back in Russia about things that are here, and there's a lot of misconceptions about Americans in Russia, and she's enjoying destroying those. They say all kinds of things about us that really aren't true, and this election especially has been just especially lovely in that regard. But honestly, seeing America through the eyes of somebody who's not from here, especially from somebody who's from a country that I understand very well and I have a lot of admiration for. The Russian people have had so much, when you have all of the smart people and all of the hardworking people and all the rest of them, just taken out and shot, it does have a dampening effect on your mood. But she loves this country so much, and I do too. And she's coming here legally, and she's standing in line, and we're going to get the visa changed, and we get the temporary residence card after we're married, and that lasts until they get the green card, and then after that there's a 2-year waiting period, is my understanding, and after that 2-year waiting period she can apply for citizenship. So she's going to be an American citizen just like you and me. And the nice thing about this country, and I've been saying this forever, is if you do it the right way, we're not against immigration, we're against illegal immigration, and largely we're against illegal immigration because it deprives the immigrants of this experience. You stand there in front of a crowd of people and you take the oath, and you're as American as people who got off the Mayflower. And the reason we're against illegal immigration is not just because it's unfair to those people, but they miss the experience of actually becoming Americans. Dan says the Russians are so much more like us than many Europeans are. That's absolutely right, Dan, and Natasha's talked about this quite a lot. America's a very big country, and Russia's a very big country, and we have a lot of differences, but we also have a lot of similarities. Nobody does adversity like the Russians, says Kevin Kilcoyne, and it's true. That's why I have such admiration for these people. If you really, really get into World War II and understand what the Russian people went through as a result of Stalin's, madness, but he did rally the country. When you think about the fact that the Russians fought so hard and took so many casualties and were so unrelentingly brave, and then you find out that some of the bravest of the Russians were people who were captured by the Germans, and they went and spent years in German POW camps. And that's not a fun thing to do. And half of them were killed or didn't make it, but the other half goes home. And the second they get home, they're arrested by their own government, and their families are sent to Siberia for having surrendered. Yeah, it's a tough thing to do. But, her father was a photographer, is a crime photographer, and he was a basketball player. He was very tall. And so, there you go. So it's been fun, and fun is not the word. It's been amazing, and it's going to get more amazing. And after an hour of that, let's get into some of the questions, because there has been apparently some other news that happened since last time we did a show. So here are some of the questions I like very much. Matthew Lloyd says, based on what you see of President-elect Trump versus pre-election Trump, are you more or less excited for the next 4 years? I do not recognize this guy, and I mean that in a very nice way. Needless to say, there was a great deal about Trump that concerned me, the coarseness and and the vulgarity, and the fact that he doesn't seem to be terribly well versed on things. And I'm so sorry to interrupt. This is the last question I will take on this, but Sarge 56 just said, is she from Moscow? Actually, she's from Siberia. I was born in New York City, and Natasha was born in Siberia. And she grew up in a town called Novosibirsk, which was a Russian Soviet academic town where they would put a bunch of scientists and researchers. And so everybody in the town she grew up in was very, very well educated, and lots of physicists and scientists and so on. She grew up in Siberia. She'd just go out into the taiga. She'd go out and gather mushrooms out there in the forests. And another thing I like about her very much, says a lot about her, is when she was very young, she was 5, she would have to be at school at 11 o'clock. And she'd get up early and get on a bus. She's 5 now. And she would just take the bus to different parts of town that she'd never been to and walk around and say hi to people, and then get back on the bus in time to be at school on 11. She was 5 years old, just getting on buses, going new places. That's enormously cool. So she was born in Novosibirsk and grew up in Siberia, and then she did some about 10 years in Sochi, which is south of, right on the Black Sea, which is a Russian resort, and spent a lot of time in Sochi, and then she moved to Moscow, I want to say about 10 years ago, and has been doing the photography business there as well. So that's that. In any event, sorry, back to Trump. I had some real concerns about the guy, and if you watch the videos, you'll see my there's actual, of course, documentation for my positions on Trump. When first asked about Donald Trump at the beginning of the primary session, I said I like his hat, and then I had some real concerns about him. I was never a never Trumper, but I had genuine concerns about him. I didn't know if he could win this election, and now I'm beginning to realize, as most people are, he's the only person who could have won this election. But I was not only critical of him, I was deeply worried about him, because in the first debate, when Hillary laid that trap down for him, maybe he doesn't have as much money as we thought he had, and he bit, and he wouldn't let go, and he spent the next hour and 10 minutes, reassuring her about how much money he had. I thought, this guy may psychologically not be able to do this. By the way, Dan, I'm sorry to keep interrupting with the comment stream. Dan, FP1, I have not taken her to Disneyland yet. I think she went to Disneyland in Europe, Paris, but she hasn't been to Disneyland. And if you say you want to be our guide, you are more than welcome to be, and you can just write us at info@billwhittle.com, and we'd be more than happy to do that. That'd be a lot of fun. Anyway, so I was really worried about that, and I was really actually wondering, is his ego so strong that he cannot resist the tweet? Is it so powerful for him that he cannot resist what's an obvious psychological trap? That's dangerous if you've got somebody who cannot recognize a trap and not walk into it. And then by the time I saw the third debate, I was pretty much thinking he was done. But the third debate, I thought, wow, who is this guy? He's much more disciplined. He's much more informed, better informed. I thought, clearly thinking, remember the third debate going, I wish this guy had shown up earlier. He'd have a chance to win. So the third debate was a big milestone, big change. Literally, I was like, who is this guy? With a bunch of people felt the same way. And then we got the Gettysburg Address that has one or two things in there I might quibble with a bit, but generally speaking is a pretty solid conservative manifesto. And I thought, wow, that's awesome. I did a segment on his speech in Grand Rapids and how presidentially sounded there. And all of this to say that that I was thinking he was better and better and better. And then here's the thing. Some of you got to watch me. I was watching the event. I was watching the election over at Daily Wire with my friend Jeremy and Ben Shapiro, and Clavin apparently was there too, although I don't really remember him being there, but apparently he was there. So we're watching the events roll in, and as you probably know, Ben is a strident never-Trumper. And as the night went on, I was actually starting to get a little annoyed. We're friends and we'll stay friends. Ben's a warrior. I disagreed with him on this position completely, but as the night went on, it was like he just wouldn't give him 10 minutes of grace, you know? He wouldn't give Trump 10 minutes of grace. And this is the point I want to make for you, Matthew, because I think it's a very telling point. So as you remember from election night, Trump won the election, and then it took 2 hours for them to call it. And if I'd known it was going to take 2 hours, I would have gone home. But I kept thinking, oh, they're going to call this any minute. And they didn't. And during that 2 hours, we had a lot of time to kill him. And finally, it was announced that Trump was going to come out and give his acceptance speech. And I said, good. And Ben said, he's just going to come out and trash people. He's just going to come out and tell everybody how right he was and how it was the most huge win victory and how he showed everybody who called him, you know, he basically was just pounding him before he even came out. And I said, Ben, but what if he doesn't? He said, what if he doesn't want? What if he doesn't come out like that? What if he comes out and he's gracious? He's not going to be gracious. But what if he does? What if he does come out with something gracious? Well, it's not going to happen. Okay. Well, he did come out, and he came out with the most gracious speech I think I've ever heard as an acceptance speech. And I said to them, and I'm kind of saying this to all the Trump doubters out there, at least who are on the conservative side, the guy had nothing to gain. The position of I don't want to put words in other people's mouth, but many of the Never Trump crowd were saying that he was just saying what he needed to say to conservatives because he wanted to win the election. I said, okay, well, he's won the election. He doesn't owe anybody anything now. So when he comes out to give his acceptance speech, he's the president-elect. He's done it. If there's ever a chance to gloat, if there's ever a chance to gratify your insatiable ego, surely this would be it. And he didn't. He came out and he was extremely gracious. And then 2 days later, he's sitting with President Obama, and he says he's a very good man, and I've enjoyed this meeting very much, and I look forward to working with him, and I look forward to his counsel in the future in times of crisis. And where is it? Who is this guy? Now, some people say that it's because of Bannon or some other people came in and they straightened him out and told him what to do, and they took away his phone so he couldn't tweet in the morning, and that's probably true. However, I also think the case can be made, and it's certainly true for me, that it is possible to step up into a position. I was nothing like the man I was before I started doing this, and the comments I was receiving from people like you from the very beginning made me a better person. I had to be a better person. People were counting on me, and I couldn't do the kind of things I used to do. And it's a self-realization, and it's a touch of grace. And I think he was just struck by lightning in a very, very good way. He was struck by lightning, and I think he's becoming a much, much, much better man. And I think the magnitude of what he's done, and especially the magnitude of the people that are depending on him, the magnitude of that movement is making him a better person. I certainly hope that's the case. That's going to be my default position until I hear otherwise. But in any event, he is not the candidate he was before, and I think he's remarkable. And I think his performance since the third debate has been exemplary and getting better every single time I see him. So there's that. Our next question comes from a guy named Matthew Lloyd, who writes, is the media done? They lost so badly and still don't get it. They keep doing the same crazy things that made people despise them so much, complaining about Trump ditching them to grab a steak. Is there any chance that they will recover or maintain some of their power? No, I don't think so, Matt. I think they're done. And one of the point number 3 on my plan, which has been delayed, I was going to release the plan the day after the election because I thought we were going to lose it. So that'll be coming out next week. But the 5-point plan I have for the future of this country, point number 3 is we have to outflank the mainstream media. And when I say outflank them, it doesn't mean we have to change them, because they can't be changed. They're the publicity department for the progressive movement. But the good news, as I was saying, is that we don't have to beat them, because they are dying in front of our eyes. And while the demographics of young people favors Democrats and progressives, and this is where we have to apply all of our efforts in the next 4 years. We got to grow a crop of conservatives to vote in 2020, and we have very limited time, but it can be done. While it's true that there are more and more people becoming, more and more progressives or socialists or Democrats or whatever, it's also true that nobody under the age of 30 ever looks at TV. Nobody watches CNN anymore. Nobody watches ABC. People get their news nowadays. Young people get it off of Facebook and other things. By the way, somebody just said Donald Trump is the youngest, oldest guy we've ever elected, and that is absolutely true. Among the many, many things that would so impress me in the final weeks of this campaign is that, was it the last Sunday before the election, Trump did 6 events. I mean, he was in 6 different states, started at 6 in the morning, finished at 11 at night. 6 events in 6 different states. That's astonishing. That's astonishing vitality. Hillary Clinton had the nerve to stand up there and say, I can some people have wondered about my health and stamina, but I had the stamina to debate Donald Trump 3 times for 90 minutes, and I've got the stamina to be president. It's like, is that serious? Did you just really seriously say that? The question is about the media. They're dying demographically. They were dying demographically before the election, and if there had never been an election, or if Hillary had won the election, then they'd still be dying anyway, Matthew. But nobody has any doubts about this liberal bias that we've been talking about, because when you see objective news anchors fighting back tears as they realize that Donald Trump is going to win, they don't strike me as objective personnel. Martha Raddatz looked like she was choking back sobs, and let's just remember that this is the unbiased person who was going to moderate a debate objectively. Jeremy says, why are they dying, Bill? They get paid every time somebody pays their cable bill. That's true, but fewer and fewer and fewer people are paying a cable bill, Jeremy. I don't watch cable. I haven't watched cable in years. I watch Apple TV and I watch YouTube and Facebook and stuff. So no one, they're dying. And the key event to show you that they're dying is Hillary stumbling into the van. The media said that she had stumbled, just misstepped off the curb. And if we had depended on the mainstream media, that's all we would have heard. But 2 citizens were there, and right now there's 180 million of us walking around in this country with high-definition TV cameras in our hands. And the only reason we saw that event on 9/11 with Hillary was because 2 people just happened to be there with cell phones. So because there were people there with cell phones, we saw that she was wobbly, and she didn't stumble. She collapsed into the van. So citizen journalists are happening. And I'm kind of running this into the ground with what I've been saying lately, but to make the point crystal clear, if there's some kind of event, a protest, or a riot, or something like that, the mainstream news media basically has to get a call saying there's a riot downtown, and then they have to get their news van together, and they put out, their reporter gets in the van, and the cameraman gets in the van, and they get the driver, and then the next thing you do, they go out and find the location, and it takes them 25 minutes to get there, and by the time they get there, they have to string up that enormous long pole to talk to their microwave station, and they have to get the guy with the lights out there, and the cameraman has to put the camera on his shoulder, and they have to get a light on the person there, and they have to get the microphone feed done, and they start the thing, and 3, 2, 1. Well, we're here at the scene of what happened an hour and a half ago, because it's over by the time they get there. But the difference today is it's over, but by the time the mainstream news media arrives, millions and millions and millions of people have seen the event because it was streamed live. It was either shot on the iPhone and uploaded, or now more and more often, just streamed live to the web. Millions of people have seen the news. So we are entering a world very rapidly of citizen journalists, which means that the signal will get out. Hillary Clinton still thinks that that she can keep secrets in this world. This post-election picture of her walking the dog, just happened to randomly bump into somebody. Doesn't seem like that was the case. Looks like it was a setup thing, and she just keeps lying, and it doesn't matter anymore. Now, a serious problem, as J.S. Brads one points out, is that YouTube and Facebook are banning conservatives and they're censoring content. That's fine. You can turn that around and make that part of the romance and the mystery of being on the Rebel Alliance. It's not a trivial problem by any means. There is a conservative Twitter. I was at an event in South Florida, and I met a guy who's running the conservative Twitter, and I'm going to join that, certainly. But the good news is that the signal's going to get out, and the especially good news is it's not going to be a conservative media or a liberal media. It's just going to be the truth. I still have major problems with Julian Assange, but as it turns out, Julian Assange was the only person out there, and anonymous, that were doing actual journalism. They were going out and digging up the truth and running with it, and not in the news suppression business. So, yeah, they're done. They know they're done. And when you hear the New York Times, by the way, say, hey, you know what, my bad, we maybe weren't as fair as we could have been, and we want you to trust us and teach us how to cover the news more fairly. In other words, you knew full well that you were not only slanting the news, you were suppressing the news, you were killing stories that were true, you were promoting stories that weren't true, and you did all this to drag this carcass over the line, and you didn't do it, and you failed, and now everybody's on to you. Now you say, hey, really sorry about that, trust us again and everything will be fine. Go to hell. Just stuff yourself, honestly. The New York Times is done. They're all done. They're finished. So just watch them burn, and they're burning down. And that's why they're so scared, by the way, Matt. That's why they're so terrified, because they know they're over. It's finished. One thing I didn't get to include on that miracle video, I wish I had later, is the very, very beginning of Lord of the Rings, because we saw the towers fall. I met James O'Keefe. I know James, and I spent a good couple days with him down in Florida, and he's on fire to go. And I want to spread that around wider, too, and get him some more resources. But in any event, the one thing I actually wish I had included on that night thing was the beginning where at the very beginning of Lord of the Rings, you hear Galadriel sing, there's a change. You can I forget what you can taste it in the water. You can smell it in the air. The world is changing. Sure enough is. Thank God, and it couldn't happen too soon. And by the way, none of us realize the magnitude of what's happened yet. I mean, if Trump had eked it out and we'd lost the House or the Senate or both, that'd still be a victory. But it's the House, and it's the Senate, and it's the courts, and it's the presidency, and the pop culture machine has been destroyed, and all of the celebrities have been discredited, and all of these so-called impartial journalists have been unmasked, and all of the liberal assumptions have been defeated. And because they're such children, more Trump voters are created every single day. Every time these people protest, every time a Trump supporter gets beaten up, every time you see somebody stealing a Trump sign, you're making more Trump fans. And he is, in fact, they're the reason he was elected, and good for him. And I like very much what he's been doing with his teams, his picks. We're talking about Giuliani and Newt Gingrich and Bolton. Sign me up. And Burning Chrome says it was nice to use the Das Boot clip. He said it a couple times. It is my favorite clip. I was cheering when I saw that in the movie. Not today, You may get us yet, but not today. Not today. So anyway, now last thing I'll say about this is I was on this subject. I felt ripped off by not seeing Hillary's concession speech that night. I really did. And I was, again, this is on camera. I was watching the feed while I was on camera live at Daily Wire, and when it was announced that she wasn't going to be coming out, I screamed at the TV set as loud as I could, "You coward! You miserable coward!" And then Podesta comes out, and when Podesta's speaking, I'm screaming, "You coward!" Because Podesta couldn't even come out and say, "Hey, we gave it our best shot, but we just didn't win this one. Thanks to everybody." No, she just plain chickened out and left those people genuinely literally out in the cold. And then Podesta comes out, and he can't have the grace or the courage to say we lost, so he has to do this, well, there's still some states that are too close to call, and we're fighting this thing, and everybody go home now, and we'll have more to say in the morning, as Clinton is giving the concessions phone call to Trump. It's miserable, low-life, chicken shit cowardice is what it was. And they should be ashamed of themselves, and Hillary supporters ought to wake up to the fact that she thinks so little of you that she left you out there while she either got roaring drunk or physically violent or was in a crying fit. One of these three, probably all three. And by the way, if you're a big fan of Hillary Clinton and her everything she's done for women's rights, you ought to be ashamed to the death of the fact that this person who claims to be strong woman and as strong as any man, and let's break that glass ceiling, is the only person in memory who's run a presidential candidate and campaign, and then could not come out and give a concession speech because she was too busy crying. Really? This is your champion? Honestly, if Condoleezza Rice had run for president and not won, I don't think she would be too busy crying. I think she'd come out and give a hell of a speech. You know, if Connie had been elected in 2008, we would have had the first black president, the first woman president, and the first serious president, and the first great president who was both of those things, because Condi is the bomb, and I think she's just terrific. Anyway, somebody's asking about mugs. We have some news about mugs, which we'll get to you next time, Scott. I think we have some mug progress, but it's just been crazy for me, so we'll get to that shortly. Okay, so moving on here. Let me see which ones I want to make sure I get take here, because I went a little longer than I wanted to. This is related to the press, but it's a very good question from Brian Jones. He says, given the pivotal role Trump's rolling ponage of the press throughout the campaign, do you think it's reasonable to believe that Clinton would have mopped the floor with any other Republican at the top of the ticket who would have tried to play nice with them and likely gotten punked? You know, everybody was saying Trump was the only guy who couldn't beat Hillary Clinton, and I don't want to be a guy who's taking credit for I didn't think he was going to win this thing. Let's just be honest about it. But I had been saying for a while that Hillary has been preparing for this run since she married Bill. Certainly from 1992 when she walked into the White House. Since 1992, for 24 years, half a lifetime practically, she's been preparing to be president. And the way she's been preparing to be president is to, now this is going to come as a shock for many of you, so I don't want to, hopefully you'll be sitting down. But apparently Hillary was making a significant hay out of the fact that she's a woman. I know this is going to come as quite a shock to you, but it wasn't just her incredible policy positions. Apparently she was also running on her gender. So what was her weapon? What was her strategy? For 25 years, what was her strategy? Her strategy is going to be, I am the defender of women, and the strategy of the Democrats, once Obama was safely elected the first time, was that the Republicans are at war with women, so that when the champion of women gets a chance to run for office, it is absolutely going to be a slam dunk. Slam dunk. So Hillary's platform was, I'm a woman, the Republicans hate women, the majority of the country is women, so it's done, it's over, I win. So Hillary starts playing the woman card in the middle of the Republican primaries there, and this, you got to understand, it's not just a weapon. She is unveiling the warhead. This is the thing that she was going to win on. This is what and the media have been preparing the battle space for 20 years. Here comes the woman to take on this misogynistic man, this evil, vile, vulgar fellow. And she comes out and starts saying Republican war on women. And Trump says, I don't think a person who's been married to a rapist for 25 years and who has defended his actions and who has basically ruined the lives of every single one of the women that came forward to accuse him is in any position to run as a champion of women. And once he had the guts to say that, once he had the guts to put Bill Clinton on the table, it was over. She never came back to it again. It was never part of her strategy. It was all about how awful Trump was, but her nuclear weapon, her booster rocket, the thing that was going to get her into orbit, was gone. Trump took it away from her. And I don't think anybody else would have been capable of doing that, because, and I'm speaking as a person who's rapidly becoming a more of a fan, Trump is the only guy who didn't have anything to lose because he was already independent, but he was already, on some level, he was already kind of, his reputation was, you couldn't sully his reputation because he had a reputation for being kind of a loud, obnoxious guy. He's the only guy who had the guts to go in there because he was the only guy that couldn't get hurt by going into that gutter with them. He just basically said, no, your husband's a rapist. You don't get to stand there and be champion of women. Who else is going to say that? Nobody. Trump's power was that he was saying things that people knew were true and no one else had the courage to say. And I don't think anybody else could have beaten her. because she had so much of a tailwind with the media and the press. They would have savaged anybody. But Trump just didn't listen. He just went in and savaged her himself. And watching that first debate, the reason we were cheering was after God knows how long, Bush was not much of a fighter either. It's been a long time since Reagan, since we heard somebody just actually fighting back. And when she was getting pummeled by him in the first debate, I remember thinking, I don't know what this guy is as a candidate, but by God, it is sure nice to hear somebody fight back. So I think you got a great point there, Brian. I don't think anybody else could have beaten her, because he was the only one who wasn't afraid to get in there and say what was true and disarm her lie. Because she hasn't done anything for women. When she was a senator, she had a building named and a street named. He took away her moral superiority, took away all her weapons. Brilliant. Let's see here. We got two questions. One's from, they're similar. Doug Shannon says, is there a case to be made for the Electoral College without winner-take-all states? Is the congressional district method better? Do swing states allow presidential candidates to campaign to only a small portion of the nation while ignoring the rest? And related to that, Jen Reinheimer wrote, it's been reported that Barbara Boxer will be proposing legislation to abolish the Electoral College. The mainstream media certainly won't present the constitutional argument opposing this legislation. Our schools have not educated our citizens about this issue. We keep hearing from the Democrats that Hillary won the popular vote. I fear that our electorate may be brainwashed to support Boxer's proposed bill. What to do? Now, somebody here can give me some... Again, the comment stream is just on fire tonight. The greatest moment of the debate, as Guatemalan Water Snake just pointed out, the greatest moment of the campaign, and I think the essence of why Trump won was when Clinton was it second debate or third debate, where Clinton was saying, let me just say this, when I think about how important the law is, you, Hillary, please. When I think about how important the law is, and when I think about Donald Trump's when I think about Donald Trump's personality and so on, I just think it's great that we should. I don't think we should trust him with basically being in charge of the law of the United States. And Trump just leans in. He says, because you'd be in jail. And it was like, holy cow, brilliant, perfect. So back to the Electoral College. I don't have to make the Electoral College case for you. I've done it many times, and apparently Prager University's video on the Electoral College has been seen by 45 million people. I would add a wrinkle to the strategy about the Electoral College, though. We should stop referring to it as the Electoral College, because when you hear criticisms of the Electoral College, you hear people saying, well, it was invented so that the delegates, couldn't get to Washington, and it took a while for people, it took 2 weeks, 3 weeks for people to get their votes in because of the slowness of the mail, and therefore it's completely obsolete, and so on and so on and so on. And so in order to get rid of the criticism of the Electoral College and the idea that individuals have to get in a buggy and go to Washington to vote, I think it'd be better to reposition this argument by saying that the president is elected by the states and not by the general population. He's elected by the people of each state. But this is how our government works and why we're so successful. If you're in favor of banning the Electoral College, then you should be in favor of living under the rules that the people of Selma, Alabama impose upon you if they have a majority. You have to understand that the whole reason America is so successful is that it's actually, it's not really 50 different countries, but it's 7 or 8, right? I've made this case 100 times. There's New England, you've got New England Yankees, and you've got the Deep South, you've got Florida, which is its own little world. Louisiana is its own culture. The Southwest is a culture. The Northwest is a culture. Californians are their own little hippy-dippy culture. The Midwest is a group of people that are very similar, and so on. And you have to appeal to all of these people. If you don't have the Electoral College, if you don't have states electing the president, then the president simply campaigns in New York and Los Angeles and San Francisco, Atlanta, Chicago, Miami, and 2 or 3 other places, and all you ever get is a president and a Congress and a country that appeals to urban people. They talk about, well, he won the popular vote. Yes, it's absolutely true. She did, rather. But if you look at the country, and you look at the country by how it voted by county, you realize that the entire country is blood red, with exception of a thin stripe down each coast, a little bit down in Florida, and a little bit around Chicago. And I think somebody did a map I saw recently where they took the red out and just left it gray. And they said, if you wanted to tell the American people that they were going to be governed by the people just in these blue areas, these little blue dots, then you realize how absurd this is. It is what it is, and it's worked very well, and we need to stay in this fight. And by the way, I don't believe Barbara Boxer can introduce legislation to change the Electoral College. Surely that must require a constitutional amendment. Somebody who knows more about this than I do would let me know, but I mean, it's a constitutional issue. It's in the Constitution. This is how we elect presidents in this country, as designed by the Constitution, and you can't just say, we're going to pass a bill to abolish it. I think that needs a constitutional amendment, and good luck with that, given how badly Obama has destroyed the Democratic Party all across the board. They've lost more than 1,000 seats in state houses since he's been elected. We're blowing him away. Obama is leaving. I hope he's worth the price, because he's taken the Democratic Party into the toilet. By the way, I remember in the days leading up to the election, it's going to be, what are we going to do when we look at the wreckage of the Republican Party after this election? And there was never, and I said I was prepared for Trump to win 50 states or no states, but there was never a world where I foresaw that it was going to be the destruction of the Democratic Party and that the Republicans would come out with a win like this. I just, beyond my imagination, and still don't realize how much of an opportunity we have, but we're gonna move on it. Okay, let's get going here, a couple more, and then we'll call it a night. An hour and 30. Let's see here. I clipped the first name. The last name is Randolph. I'm sorry about that. I just miscopied and pasted it. But he says that in your TPUSA ASU speech, which I gave yesterday, so you'll be seeing that online, you talk about jointly solving the ignored problems. How will we get collectivists to start from a position other than we didn't spend enough on it? They cannot ever admit their solutions do not work, because if they did, they would also have to say, oh my God, what have I done? So what incentives do we lay on the table to get them to become honest brokers in the process? I had said, and as part of my plan, the fifth point in the plan, and maybe the most important point of the plan, is that we have to take away the progressives' weapons. Progressivism exists only to deal with cultural problems. And if the country were perfect, you wouldn't need progressives. So it's in the interest of the Democrats to make the country as bad as possible, because then you need Democrats to come in there and take over the reins of government and throw money at things and save the country, when, of course, we all know they make it worse. But I said you have to take away the progressive weapons. And Sun Tzu said that the ultimate warrior was a state of swordlessness, which meant that the ultimate warrior can walk into the enemy camp without a sword and defeat them using their weapons. That's a profound insight. So what I was saying is, we have to understand that if we don't go after these progressive issues, then somebody else will, and they will continue to use human sympathy to beat us when their policies are catastrophic. Now, people hear this and they start thinking, oh, so you're going to start compromising with these bastards. And it's like, no, I'm not going to compromise with them at all. But the reason I say we have to address progressive issues is because I don't ever want to lose to these swine ever again. I've seen what they've done to this country, and I've seen what they've done to the people under their so-called care. It's a catastrophe. But we have to understand that I'd like to keep winning elections. I like it better than losing elections, and I think it's better for the country. So how do we lose elections to these people? We lose elections because guys like Obama come in and start telling people teary stories about how hardship there is. And the American people are so fundamentally decent that they let them brand themselves as heroes and brand us as villains, even though they've destroyed inner city America. So when I say we have to take away their weapons and we have to cooperate on problems like this, I'm not saying that we have to cooperate on the methods of solving the problems. I'm saying we have to apply conservative solutions to the problems that progressives are getting elected on. So what does that look like? Well, for example, education. The progressive response to education is we've got the 27th best educational system in the world because we're not spending enough money on it. So give us more money, more taxes, and more government, and that'll solve the problem. My response is we already spend 4 times what the next closest country spends in terms of outlay, and we get nothing for it. The more we spend, the worse it gets. So the conservative solution to a progressive problem is to understand that the educational system in this country, especially in the inner cities, is appalling. In Baltimore, where 4% of students read at their grade level, 4%, it's not 4% don't read at their grade level, 4% do. And all the money that goes to these kids gets swallowed up by corrupt Democratic politicians. But Just to take Baltimore as an example, we are spending $15,500 per student per year in Baltimore to get them the worst education in the world. So the conservative solution to this would be to realize that it's a 2-generation problem, that you're going to have to get people off of dependency, that it took us 3 generations to get into it, it's going to take us 2 to get out, and that we cannot set the building on fire until we move the people out of the building. So how do we do that? Well, the first thing we could immediately do, is give these people choice, give them the ability to go to charter schools. Charter schools would be the end of the teachers' unions because charter schools would work. And once you break the back of the union power and their ability to elect Democrats, then you can start to work on the long-term solution. You have the ability then to work on actual solutions, which are getting people out of dependency. That's going to take a long, long time. If Donald Trump comes out and basically does something that is privatizing or at least introducing competition to education and healthcare, you're on the right track. And we will see such a dramatic and quick improvement in life that if we can enact these things quickly, we actually may, in fact, be able to roll this ball for a long, long time. A long time. So when I talk about a joint kind of politics, now I did say in the speech, and I will say again, that if you took one of the things that occurred to me during this election was that I think that these political parties are obsolete. And I maintain that you could put all the red voters on the table and all the blue voters on the table, mix them up, and you could come up with a party and a platform that would appeal to 80% of Americans and not sacrifice anybody's core principles. In a very, very, very tight nutshell, what I'm suggesting we do is we take conservative solutions to these progressive problems and deny the progressives another reason to be elected ever. And the inner cities are a great example of this. When Trump said he wants to make a new deal for black Americans, I thought this is the most brilliant political thing I've seen in quite a long time. If it turns out that he's in favor of raising more money and spending more money, then I'll be very, very, very disappointed. But I don't get the impression that's going to be the case. So we have to get in there and we have to start showing immediate improvements. Now, one thing that not many people are talking about is this. The Democrats lost, and they lost big, and they lost blue-collar workers. And everybody's commented on how working-class people voted more Republican than Democrat this time around. But what nobody that I've heard is talking about is this isn't just a loss of voting blocks for the Democrats and a gain for the Republicans. If you think about it, losing the working class means that the Democrats do not have a brand anymore. This has destroyed their brand. The Democratic Party throughout history, at least as far as I've ever read, was supposed to be the party of the little guy. It's the party of the little guy fighting against the rich monopolies and the rich businessmen and the rich capitalists, and somebody's got to stand up for the little guy, and that's the Democratic Party. Well, what Obama has done and what the celebrity approach to governance has done and what all this spending and all of this corruption has done is sent the working class over to the Republicans. And so what is the Democrats' story now? This is the party of the little guy. It's always been advertised as the party of the little guy. But what happens when they're not? What happens when we get to the world where we are today? The Democrats are the party of Goldman Sachs and Warren Buffett and Bill Gates and Steven Spielberg and all these multimillionaires and billionaires. They're all Democrats. And all these Silicon Valley executives are all Democrats. And all the millionaires everywhere are Democrats. And the celebrity millionaires are all Democrats. And the working man is a Republican. Where does that leave the Democratic brand? The Republican brand is essentially we're individuals. We should all be individuals. And the Democrats are we're for the little guy. Well, the little guys joined the individual crowd now. And what have they got left to stand on? Nothing. Nothing. If we don't screw this up, we will have a chance to really, really repair a lot of damage that's been done in this country. And as I've said before, and I'll say again, we have to understand this as conservatives. We can never beat them. We can only fight them. We can beat them today, but we will never reach a point where we've beaten them so badly that they've relaxed. I'll get to that in a minute. That we can relax. How do we convert liberals to our side when they're incapable? I'm sorry, this is from Merlin Wendelboe. That's a heck of a name, Merlin Wendelboe. I hope I pronounced it correctly. It's an awesome name. How do we convert liberals to our side when they are incapable of having an honest conversation? They dismiss any facts, reason, or evidence that does not fit in with their fantasy narrative. That's true. But the good news, Merlin, is that I've been working with a lot of students lately, and the good news is that they dismiss facts, reason, or evidence because it's never been presented to them. Because the annoying and troubling thing about facts, reason, and evidence is if you construct an argument out of these things and you know what you're doing, if you put some passion in it, like you actually believe it, then you can construct arguments that show them that they're wrong and they can't get out of them. They can't escape these arguments. And a quick example is this kid who said, well, you can't possibly, can't defend capitalism by saying it's okay to have 5 houses when, that's disgusting. If homeless people, how can you justify having 5 houses? And I said, how many songs have you got on your iPhone? He said, I don't know, 750. I said, well, do you need 750 songs? Do you listen to them all at the same time? Every one of them costs about $1 to download. Why didn't you just have 50 songs and give $700 to charity? I'm kind of ashamed to be seen in the same room as you. Then they're stuck. Merlin, they're stuck. They can't get out of it. There's no end. There's no way around it. When you show them that they behave like these rich people they claim to be fighting against, that their behaviors are exactly the same, just on a smaller scale, then they're stuck. And it's been my experience and why we're trying to big membership push with this plan thing, because we are going to take these arguments to young people in a way that they actually listen to them. And you flip them. You really can. You can flip them actually very quickly and very easily. It's shocking, really, how thin that socialist line is. One of the things I've been doing is talking a little bit about money. And I did set up a Carson trap. Just to give you a quick example. I was talking to 850 young politicians, the Junior Statesmen of America, a couple of weeks ago. And one of these social justice warriors got up. And I'd been swinging hard with these kids. We were going back and forth and a lot of yelling, but nothing nasty. And one of them got up and read something that she wrote on her iPhone. And I'd asked them, I'd said, look, is LeBron James worth more money than the worst player in the NBA? Yes or no? And everybody says yes. And I say, why? Why? That runs counter to your entire philosophy. LeBron James should make exactly the same amount of money as everybody in the NBA. In fact, everybody in the NBA should make exactly the same amount of money as every other American. So why should LeBron James get paid more than anybody else? And people say, because he's better. I said, well, that's true. What does that mean? And when you confront them with this, they start to get it. So I would say, look, why does a brain surgeon get more money than a guy who runs a convenience store? Because a brain surgeon can run a convenience store, but a convenience store clerk can't do brain surgery. And because he's dedicated years and decades of his life and taken out huge loans to be one of a handful of people that can accomplish this. So this was what I was saying, why I was trying to make the case that income inequality is tied to outcome inequality. And then this young SJW got up and read this manifesto that she'd read, and it's something to the effect of, you say that brain surgeons make more than 7-Eleven clerks. But what about if you're a 7-Eleven clerk and you want to be a brain surgeon and you're black or another minority and the institutional racism in America prevents you from being a brain surgeon? What about that? And the room just exploded into cheers, applause, standing ovation. She's got this smug look on her face. And it went on for a long time. And I just basically said, you guys just get out of your system. I'll answer you as soon as you quiet down. And they cheering and roaring and so on. And I said, and I hadn't set this up this way. It was just sheer luck. Sometimes you just find an ace in your pocket, and that's the way it goes. So just by happy chance, I said to this, spoke to her directly. I said, do you know who the best brain surgeon is in America today? We're talking about brain surgeons. Do you know who the best brain surgeon in America is today? In fact, he's very likely the best brain surgeon in the world. Do you know who that would be? She shakes her head. And I said, well, his name is Ben Carson. Here's what's interesting about that. Ben Carson is a black man, grew up in the Deep South, and they were so poor that they didn't have shoes when they were growing up. Ben Carson tells how his mother made him read and study when he didn't want to. He wanted to go out and play, but she made him read and study. And over time, he got to like reading and studying. And then he went on to become the best brain surgeon in the world, who started from abject poverty in the Deep South as a black man. And he is, in fact, the best brain surgeon on the planet today. Because his mother told him he had to be better. And that was the end of that, right? I mean, where do you go from there? You don't. You're done. So this is what I like to see coming up for us at BillWhittle.com. This 5-point plan, which I'm going to air on next week, is about how do we turn this country around, given the little window of opportunity that we have. This 4-year window may only be a 2-year window. We have to grow new conservatives in 4 years. We have to have a crop of new conservatives that are going to vote Republican in 2020, or else this is going to be a one-off. I don't want it to be a one-off. So you have to understand that these progressives and liberals and young people and all the rest of these people are not bad people, and they want to do the right thing. They've been told that capitalism is evil and socialism is good, and you have to show them through examples like this that socialism is evil and capitalism is good. You have to ask them if a person who studies for 25 years, gives up his youth essentially, because when everybody's out partying or doing bong hits or playing beer pong or whatever they're doing, having fun in college. Everybody's out having fun in college except one guy or some woman is sitting there studying, and they study for 20 years, and then they take another 5 or 10 years in a internship and so on, a residency, and then they go out and make more money. And you're telling me it's fair that this person makes the same amount of money that doesn't have any effort at all? That's fair? Nobody thinks that's fair. So that's how we do it, and we can do it. And I want to hand out little hand grenades. We're doing a whole new video series. The plan is the first of them. It's the first of the new look. I'll probably put a still up tomorrow. But they are, Merlin Magus says that they are bad people. They just don't seem to realize it. They have bad ideas, Merlin, and they do bad things. I'm certainly not talking about the progressive agitators, the Clintons and the Obamas and the Saul Alinsky guys. I'm not talking about them at all. Those people are pure evil, and they're trying to destroy this country. I'm talking about young people who have never heard the other side. They've never, ever heard the other side, and when you give them the other side, they actually wake up. It just stops them dead. So we have a tremendous opportunity because they've never heard the other side. If these kids were considering themselves socialists after having heard all of our arguments, that'd be one thing, but they've never heard it. We flip them in no time. And congratulations there to Keegan MC, 25-year-old medical student. You deserve to make a lot more money than the people that are out there partying, and I suspect you're aware of this. In any event, they can be turned. Look, it's this simple. You can turn liberals into conservatives if you can show them that it's the nicer thing to do. If you can show them that it is not only better for other people, but that the policies that they've been backing are in effect catastrophic. And they can't get past this either. They started saying, when somebody was saying, starting to suggest that I was a racist, I said, hey, I'm the one who's for setting these people in the inner cities free. It's your policies for 100 years of uninterrupted Democratic mayors and city councils that has led to this murder rate and this crime rate and this hopelessness rate. It's not like we've been governing these cities and you're calling me a racist for wanting to change. You've been governing these cities. You have led these people into catastrophe and murder and hopelessness. Not me. You have. You're responsible for this murder rate. You're responsible for this crime rate. You're responsible for this hopelessness. You're responsible for these riots. You're responsible for the state of these people who you claim to be helping. And just don't back down. Just stick it to them. And they don't like it, and they don't know what to do with it. And you can win. You can win. Absolutely, you can win. So moving on here. Jeffrey Lee Devlin writes, it was really great seeing you on the Daily Wire the night of the election. I enjoy your perspective and Ben's and Andrew's. What do you consider your strengths and theirs? Also, will you do videos with them again? My primary strength is that I'm not Andrew Klavan or associated with him in any way, business-wise or professionally. Look, Daily Wire is an entirely different model than us. Daily Wire does some content, and they do have subscriptions, so I suppose it's not that different. But the actual Daily Wire is a huge site that's getting bigger all the time. They've got some very, very sharp people over there, not just running it, but doing the social media. I don't know if I got a chance to mention this at the beginning. I was so busy talking about Natasha, but we hired a social media company, and our reach, yes, I think I did mention it. Our peak reach used to be 13,000 was our social influence, and now it's 250,000, and that's after 1 week. They're telling us we can get to floor of millions of people, so that'll help spread the message. The nice thing about this is Jeffrey, is that everybody gets to do what they want to do, and everybody does it differently. I was at this event in Florida with Milo. I didn't get a chance to meet him, but Milo does what he does, and nobody else does that. Ben does what he does, and nobody else does that. I disagree completely with Ben's Never Trump position, and I think he's taking it too far, but that's Ben, and it's his right. Ben, by the way, has gotten hundreds, if not thousands, of death threats, and mostly from Trump supporters. So that would color your perception of things a little bit, and I don't blame him one little bit. So there you go. But Ben does his stuff, and Jeremy Boring is a very smart guy, and they're doing that stuff, and Crowder's out there, and now they've got this CRTV out there, and apparently even Klavan has an audience of literally hundreds of people listen to him occasionally. So everybody's doing what they're good at, and what I want to do is we're doing 15 videos. I've got committed to 15 videos for Turning Point USA for young people, and what I want them to be is as small a unit as possible. I was thinking it would be things like capitalism, but it's not even going to be that. It's going to be wealth creation. What is money? Income inequality, and it's just going to be a 1 minute to 2 minute hand grenade on how to defeat that argument. So next time somebody says something about income inequality, you can either show them the video, but much better, you can give them the argument. And these arguments have to be airtight, and they can be. So there you go. Full Metal America says he wants to join CRTV, but he also wants to support me. If you can hold off your decision for another week or so, we are going to show you what we can do with young people. We're going to go out there and really, really kick some ass. Because this is the direction we're moving in as a company here. We are still going to be doing, taking pot shots at people with firewalls because they need to be smacked. But we're going in a whole new, much more casual, much more optimistic, less labely, less antagonistic direction. And we're going to teach, like I said, we're going to reintroduce Americans to America. And that means we're going to teach them how all this stuff works. So, I know that money's tight out there for a lot of people. I'm hoping that a better economy means that we'll have a little more money to spend. And I've had people say, CRTV is putting in more content than you are, and so is Daily Wire, and they cost less and so on. And there's not much I can do about that right now. I've got a couple of interns coming in now to get some of this workload off of my back. To be honest with you, 90% of my time or more is spent in post-production, 90% of it. And I have to unchain myself from the edit desk and chain myself to the writing desk, and that will be a great thing. So we're taking some steps to do that, because it's just we put out a video a day or sometimes two, and it's like, I just need some help. In any event, the nice thing about it is, I would say my strengths, their strengths are, they have a tremendous, as many people said, Ben is just a factual tsunami. He's just very clinical. He's very, very intellectual, very clinical. I don't find him very emotionally satisfying, but he is just the cortex, and he's just dumping out information, and he's got tremendous courage because he gets real, genuine abuse. Klavan has a warmth and an ability to mock things and take the edge off of the progressive superiority, I think, by just by laughing at it. And everybody does what they do. And I tend to think of Milo as an explosive charge. When you got a log jam, when you're floating logs down the river to the sawing facility, to the sawmill. And sometimes every now and then the logs would just start to build up, and they'd get caught in the little narrow part of the channel. And every time more logs would come down, it would get more and more compacted, and more pressure is driving this wedge into this narrow spot. And these log jams would be enormous, and you couldn't undo them. So what they would do when they had a bad log jam is they'd place some explosives under there and just blow it up. And all the logs would go sailing into the sky, and things would start flowing again. That's the impression I get from Milo. I think Milo is a explosive charge designed to unstick people's mental log jams, and then people like me need to come in there and make the case. He's quoted me in a couple of videos, and it's very flattering, and he does a great job. doing what he does. But Milo alone is not the answer. You can't just poke people in the eye and call them on it. It's the first step. It's the explosion. But you got to follow it up with sawing some wood, and that's what I'd like to do. So I'm going to be handing out these things to people. But what the main thing I want to do when I talk about winning the hearts and minds of young people, which is the first point in the plan, is simply this. I would like to see at the end of a year, certainly at the end of 2 years, I would like to say that this company, me and our members here, I'd like to say that our company started 1,000 YouTube channels. Now, I know it's not going to get to be that. Even if it's 20, I'll be happy. And when I say 1,000 YouTube channels, I mean, I don't want 20 people doing videos here with me, and I don't want 20 people, on our programming on BillWhittle.com. I want to be able to say that we took 20 people and turned them into voices of conservatism using their voices, and perhaps me helping a little bit in terms of understanding how things like money work and capitalism works and defense and all that stuff. So I want to give them the tools, but an effective program to beat these people consistently would be to have hundreds, if not thousands, of voices talking about the same things, but in different ways. Everybody personalizing it. I've met thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of people on the road doing these events, and they're all good people, every one of them. But of the thousands of people that I've met, I've probably met 6 or 7 who I thought were just naturals. And I've tried to stay in touch with those people. People who are you can just tell they're just naturals. And ideally, I would like to be able to take some resources and find these voices, young black men who been Democrats their whole lives. Zoe's story, for example, is amazing. And I'd like to find older women. I'd like to find Hispanics. I'd like to find a variety of people who are telling the same story about freedom and how freedom helped their lives. And I'd like that message to be coming from everywhere. And Bone Canoe 86 says, I'm starting my political channel soon. That's mostly to you. Well, Bone Canoe, send me an email. Just mention info@billwhittle.com and say we talked about it on the Stratosphere Lounge, because I can help. I can help with presentations. I can help with arguments. I can help a little bit with productions. And we can certainly link to them and get them spun up. But we need people using their own voices, because if you're talking about a kid who's never heard any of this before, and I get out there and tell him something 100 times in 100 videos, that's one thing. But if he gets told 100 things by 100 different people, then that's overwhelming. It's overwhelming. So that's one of many things I'd like to do, is just really start spinning up some people, because that way everybody goes out there. I can't be on all these college campuses, and I want people who are not only capable of delivering this message, but people who are capable of teaching other people how to deliver this message. It's got to go virally like that. That's really the way to go. And I think we're about done here with 2 more. G.K. Masterson asks, in the long term, will we actually be able to bridge the divide between the urban areas and the rest of the country? Or is this just the next in a long series of steps that winds up with us splitting into multiple countries? Interesting how once they lost the election, secession became a on-the-table idea for the left. GK, in the last weeks before the election, I did a lot of soul-searching about a lot of things, and of the many things I've realized is that people get the government they deserve, and I've also realized that this country has, in fact, been in a civil war for probably 20 years now, I would say, 16, something like that. Once George Bush won in 2000, and the election was so close, and the fact that the left just completely delegitimized him, never, ever, literally, figuratively, they stole all the W's off of the typewriter keys in the country before he got a chance to do anything. So I watched 8 years of them savaging Bush, and I watched 8 years of these comedians just attacking Bush and not attacking anybody else, and I watched the whole thing, and then I watched 8 years of Obama, and I watched the whole other side of the thing with them fawning over this guy, and we've been told the same thing for so many years, that the Trump victory is in fact the voice of the people saying we've had enough of being told what to do by people who are obviously wrong. we've been at war with each other for a long time, and it's been pretty much a one-way war. It's been the left on the offensive and us just retreating. They understood our weaknesses. They scoped us out. The left looked at the American people and basically said, what is their weakness? And they realized that our weakness is our decency. It's our decency. And so they realize, since we're decent people and we play by the rules, they understand that anything that happens by the rules we'll accept, and anything that they can break the rules to win, then we'll, as long as they cover it up, we'll accept it. They understood that as decent people, we're not racist, so if they accuse us of being racist, since we're decent people, we will put our heads down and shut up. And they've played everything off of our decency. So it's been a one-way civil war from a group that started out with 2 or 3% of the population back in the 50s and has grown to 50% of the population now. And we just thought it was a difference of opinion. But no, these people are trying to destroy this, all of it. And it's become more and more obvious over the years. So now it's time for us to actually fight back. And I think that this company and the messages that we do could be special forces. And we have to realize that we're fighting an insurgency for a while. Even with the Trump win, we're so badly outnumbered that if we decide to go toe-to-toe with these people, they'll just destroy us with superior firepower. We got to be smarter than they are, and we are. We got to be quicker, and we got to be more cool, and we got to be faster, and all of these things. The good news is, kids out there who are college Republicans or Young Americans for Freedom or Turning Point USA kids, they are under so much pressure to conform. The fact that they joined these organizations means that, number one, they're very smart, and number two, they're very brave. And these are going to be the people that are going to liberate this country. I want to get some weaponry to these young conservatives so that they can make other young conservatives while they're on campus. And the last one is Matthew Lloyd again. And this is a good thing I wanted to close with. That's why I moved this to the bottom here. He says, can we finally deal the death blow to the Democratic Party and set their agenda back 100 years? They'll be back like zombies, but maybe we can get a generational reprieve, ... This is a good point to close on. Here's something you have to understand, I think. Not you, Matthew, I mean all of us together. It took a while for me to understand it, and it's hard to understand because it's not pleasant to understand. It's a hard thing to face. And the thing that we have to understand is that we can never win, but we can lose. And the reason that we can never win, but we can lose, is because entropy is on the side of the left. It's easier to give somebody it's easier to take something from somebody than it is to go out and make your own. It's easier. Entropy is on their side. Everything about socialism and progressivism is to appeal to people's base emotions, their laziness, their envy, their covetousness, all of this stuff. So we cannot beat them. When I say beat them, I mean beat them and relax. All we can do is fight them. And it's really important that we understand this. Rust never sleeps. And in the battle between you and a well-maintained yard, your battle for a well-maintained yard, you have to understand that the instant that you put that lawnmower away after having cut the grass is growing again. It's growing as you put the lawnmower away. The grass is not as closely cut as it was 5 minutes ago. It's growing all the time, and rust never sleeps. And this is what we're fighting. We're fighting a movement that's designed to. Well, look, it's actually even simpler than that. See, the progressives are not really trying to progress us into anything other than what we used to have, which is a group of people who are either smart or well-connected or ruthless or bastardly or whatever, ruling over everybody else. It's what the world has been since there's been humans, since there's been civilizations or societies. It's been a small group of people who claim to be smarter or better or more in touch with God or stronger or more nasty or more willing to behead people, whatever, that have ruled other people. So it's not even like the left is trying to take us someplace. It's just trying to undermine this fluke in human history that is America. This fluke where a number of people of such intellect and such persuasive mannerisms and such stature and such courage were for 250 years able to get people to work opposite human nature and realize the benefits that came from things like discipline and planning for the future and cooperation and doing what you say you're going to do, even when it's easier to get out of it. Even when doing the right thing is destructive. You do the right thing because long term it's worth it. So America's this little blip in the history books of people having figured out a way to do things better. It's hard for us to understand as Americans, but the truth is, when you go to other parts of the world, there is no sense that we can make things better. There's no sense of, we should improve this. It just doesn't enter. There's a sewer in the middle of the village because there's always been a sewer in the middle of the village. We could fix it. Why? Because it'd be better. My fathers did it this way, and my father's fathers, and so on. So the left has that working for them. They have envy working for them. It's easier to be angry about somebody else working hard and doing well and then taking their stuff. Taking somebody else's stuff is easier than getting your own stuff. It's easier to tax a business than it is to run a business. It's easier to take other people's money than it is to go out and make your own. And that's why the left can never be beaten. They can only be fought. They have these base motives, and we have to appeal to people's not only higher motives, we have to appeal to we have to convince them that there's nothing better than working hard. Our challenge in terms of the long run, in terms of the next 4 years, is actually going to be pretty simple, I think. We have to make the case why being a good person is more fun than being a bad person. And that's not apparently obvious, because when you get into, when you try to fight this drug thing, and people say, don't do drugs, and drugs are bad. Okay. But if you're really serious about getting people off of drugs, you have to start with the fact that drugs are awesome. They're not for me. I've never needed them. I've never used them. But for the people that do drugs, drugs are awesome. They're the reason they destroy their lives over drugs is because the drug experience is so unbelievably amazing to those people that they're willing to destroy everything for it. If we don't start from the drugs are awesome beginning, then we're never going to get to the heart of the problem. By saying drugs are bad, it just makes you sound like you don't have any idea what you're talking about. We have to convince people that doing the right thing is not just better, because things have decayed so much that we can't just say you should do this because it's better for you. We have to actually say we have to do this because it's more fun. It's more fun to work hard than it is to sit around on the couch. Most people have a problem with that, but I get the sense that after 8 years of Obama, even progressives are starting to see this. Nobody, myself included, and everybody else, we've been telling people what we're against, been telling people about how bad these people are, but no one's ever gone out there, to my knowledge, and made a concise, across-the-board pitch for why this is a better life. It's more fun to work hard at a job you care about and then go out and get something with those rewards than it is to do nothing. It's a lot more fun. It's a lot more fun. In fact, there's nothing like it. There's nothing more fun than working hard to achieve what you want to do. And there's nothing more fun than that. And the more setbacks you have and the more tragedies, the more fun it is in the end. It's just fun. There's nothing like it. Nothing. And this is the challenge, is that we have to convince people that these things that are obviously fun, like just all this promiscuous sex and all this whole, porn culture and all the rest of this stuff, which has got a tremendous appeal. We have to understand that appeal, and we can't pretend it's not there. We just have to say, yes, but this is better. It's more fun. And it's more fun in every way. It's just, we're just happier. That's why we're happier. What's life about? You want to be happy, right? You're doing the drugs because you want to be happy. If you're very miserable, just getting a hit is 3-4 hours of not being miserable. So we have to show people that there's a way to be happier than taking these quick, measures that just do nothing but make your situation worse and worse and worse. It's hard. So we could do it, but it's going to be a challenge, I think. So when you say, Matt, that how do we push them back for 100 years? We don't. The final thing I'll say about this tonight is this. You have to understand that if you're in this as a conservative, as we understand the term, if you're a patriot and a conservative and you're looking around at the world today, you have to understand that it's easier for a garden to return to weeds than it is for them to grow roses. If you leave the garden alone, you will not get neatly manicured rose gardens and rose bushes and luxurious green grass. If you leave the garden alone, you get weeds, and it will be weeds till the end of time, because the weeds can win, but the roses have to fight every day. That's just the way it is. And if you don't accept that, you're going to be heartbroken. So what do? We have to roll this gigantic boulder up a hill, and it's an awful amount of work, and it's painful, and it's strenuous. And we roll this rock up the hill, and at the end of the day, we think, my God, we did it. We finally got the rock up the hill. We go to bed at night, and we wake up in the morning, and the rock's at the bottom of the hill again. And we start asking questions like, well, how many times do we have to roll this up the hill so it doesn't roll down again? Or at least, how far can we roll it up the hill so we can at least rest for 4 or 5 days? And the answer is never. It doesn't happen that way. This is the deal. This is the hand. You don't have to like it, but you have to accept it. This is our lot in life. This is the hand that we have been dealt as conservatives, and or this is the hand that we've come to. The easy hand is to hang out with the popular kids and to do all the drugs and all the sex and do all these other things that all of these people with money and power and fame and glamour have. But you look at people like Lady Gaga, or you look at people like Miley Cyrus. Miley Cyrus is a perfect example. Does she strike you as a happy person? She doesn't strike me as a happy person. She strikes me as a desperately insecure person who's doing anything for attention. When we look at the lives of celebrities, are these happy marriages? You know, when Whitney Houston dies of a drug overdose, Whitney Houston is one of the most gifted singers and one of the most beautiful women in the world, and she dies in a bathtub on a drug overdose because she's become a crack whore. What is it about her life that drove her to that, when in fact she was given so many blessings? What is it? We have to identify what it is about this, just broadly call it left-wing behavior, and say to people, and make the case. I mean, not just tell them this, you have to explain it, but basically you have to make the case why that's bad for you. Last night I was talking about, at ASU, I was talking about income inequality, and I said, some people are born with 4 aces and a king, and there's nothing you can do about that. Nothing. Some people come into the world with not even a pair. You got a 2, a 6, a 9, a jack, and a 3. And that's your hand. And in America, you should be able to improve your hand and play your hand. But one point that nobody's making is pretty much true, and I think that's this. If you see somebody who's born into a life where they have 4 aces and a king, that's the hand they drew when they came into the world. I've never met anybody, and I've never heard of anybody, who was born with 4 aces and a king who turned out okay, who was a noble person or a happy person. I see nothing but misery there. Because the worst thing that can happen to you is to be given everything you want. How do we explain this to people? It's hard, but this is ultimately, when you're finally finished and said and done, this is the challenge. How do you convince people that the worst thing that can ever happen to them is to be given everything that they want for free? It's the challenge. There's many things I want in this world, and there's a bunch of toys I want in this world, and I've had a bunch of them too, by the way. But I worked very hard for the car, I worked very hard for the business, I worked very hard for the airplane. It cost me a lot, and so it meant a lot to me. If it had just been given to me, I would have flown it a couple times and been bored with it, and then I would have needed something bigger and something more stimulating, and I would have needed, a higher dose. And there's no chasing that, because that never ends. There is never a dose that you can get to catch yourself or fill that hole. So anyway, that's that. And at 2 hours and 12 minutes, I think we will call episode number 136 smashing success. Always fun to talk about it. Somebody called it, was it Happy Victory Week? And it's going to be Happy Victory Year. In the days and weeks to come, we're going to only begin to grasp the magnitude of what happened and the magnitude of our opportunities, and God will not forgive us if we screw this one up. I really genuinely think this is a last chance, and I think it is, in fact, a chance that we're going to capitalize on. It's a miracle what happened, and now we have to make sure it lasts, because the pushback, we have no idea what's coming. We have no idea. They're going to start indoctrinating people neonatally now. So here we go. But, we want a big win. And by winning, the win that we won. We showed ourselves, and them too, we showed ourselves that we can in fact change the future, that it's not predetermined, that the world that Natasha grew up in is not necessarily the world. It's the world you get when you give up. It's the world you get when you don't fight. So we fight. We fight today. Did we roll the boulder up the hill today? Yes. That's as good as it's going to get, folks. But we rolled that goddamn rock up really pretty hard over the last week or two, and that stunned them because they thought they were going to be keeping that boulder down at the bottom forever. So let's just go out there and do it, and let's see if we can get some resources to the people that know what they're doing. One of the points I make in the pitch, which we'll see next week, the plan, is it's a snappy little phrase, but I like it. It's like this second American Revolution is not a war of bullets and bayonets. It's a war of ideas and images. And if that is true, then this is a very powerful organization that we've got here. And we'd love to have you be a part of it. So if you want to become a member, go to billwhittle.com and become a member. And everything we do here, including this program, is made possible by our members. It's our paying members. We love the support from everybody, the emotional support from everybody, but it's paying members that got me my beautiful fiance and all the rest of it. And we're working like animals here, and we're about to get some help and open this up to another whole level. As always, it's a pleasure being with you, and this is the first time we've had a chance to speak after the most earth-shaking event, not only in our lives, but I think perhaps in the history of the country. It certainly could be that. We could, in fact, look like we were here when the Tower of Barad-dûr fell. We could actually look like we could say we were there. And now we have to get into the St. Crispin Day's speech attitude, where Henry V basically says, you know, those of you who were not here in this fight will hold their manhood cheap, and curse the day that they were not with us here on the field of St. Crispin's Day, or something like that. We will have an opportunity to change this country and this world, and it's going to be a war of information, and it's a war of narratives, and it's just been an absolute honor and a pleasure to be given the opportunity to do as much as I have by you good people. And we're just getting started. And as David Wellman says, but we do have bullets just in case. This is how I'm able to sleep at night. That's exactly right. That's exactly right. We're gonna fight an idea of images and ideas, but if it does come down to bullets and bayonets, we got the bullets, which gives me a nice warm feeling of security, and conversely causes them a great deal of anxiety. So it makes me very happy. All right, guys, thanks very much for the means to keep doing this, and especially thank you very much for the kind words on my delightful fiancée, who's 100 times the person I am, and is going to cause me once again to try and step up and become a better person. But Timothy Morris says, Russian fiancés for everyone. Why not? Why not? She's a terrific person, and she's the luckiest girl alive, I think. Thank you again for everything. And now we have a whole exciting future. I've never been this on fire. I think my entire life has been getting me ready for November 9th, 2016. And so we're going to see what we can do. Thanks for joining us. We will see you next time. And keep your powder dry. And remember, it's not good to gloat in public because we want to convert these people. But in private, just wallow. That's what I'm doing. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.